And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, I'm sure you're aware that I waste a lot of time during the weekends listening to any podcast that one of our politicians that we cover is on. And this weekend, I wasted an hour of my life listening to Karen Bass on the Easy Talk podcast. But here's the thing. Even in the most softball of interviews, sometimes you reveal something that might get you in trouble later. Here's Karen Bass.
When you wake up in the morning, what's your morning look like?
Boy, this is a tough interview.
Yeah, this is practically 60 minutes.
When the ice raids have been happening this summer, do you wake up every morning with dread? Like how do you get up and start getting to work?
Well, first of all, I do wake up extremely early, and my morning is spent, probably like a lot of people, reading the news on my phone. And I read, but I've compulsively read and followed the news since I was a child.
So there you go. Karen Bass says she's compulsively read and followed the news since she's a child, except for right before the fires where she had no idea about the wind.
When it was on every channel in town.
So which one do you think it is? Is she lying about following the news, or was she lying about not knowing that it was going to be windy?
I think she really wanted to go to the party in Africa and didn't care.
Yep.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, the first edition today takes us to the city of Oakland,
where there was a massive street takeover that included 500 cars. And when you get to that many, there's just no way OPD is going to do a damn thing about it, and the citizens are starting to notice. For more, here is KPIX in the Bay. Sounded like a war zone.
Yeah, if you were to play that and say, okay, we're going to go to our war correspondent in Ukraine, no one would bat an eye.
All right, it's time for our newest segment on the John Phillips Show, Kharkiv or Oakland? What's your guess, Johnny?
That's a jump ball.
Several sideshows take over parts of Oakland and Richmond overnight. This comes as Oakland faces pressure from the Trump administration. The president recently said that he would deploy National Guard troops to cities that...
I think the anchor is distracted because you guys keep playing the sound of the screeching tires under him.
Yeah, it's hard to read something when you have that in your earpiece.
He claims are considered unsafe. Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee and the police department says that crime there has been falling in recent months.
Barbara Lee wasn't even in town this weekend.
Here is what's so crazy to me, and it's not just Barbara Lee who's doing this. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a post on social media over the weekend from a woman, I believe in Chicago, who is a left-wing white lady, middle-aged, who got carjacked and beat up and had bruises all over her body. And she posted pictures of herself after the carjacking and said, I just got carjacked, and I still don't want Donald Trump to send the National Guard in to keep the city safe. Instead of saying, hey, we're going to make sure these cities that we're in complete control of are clean and safe, and Donald Trump is going to have to look at them as the model as to what to do everywhere else, the answer is, well, they're safe enough.
Quite
and
frankly,
we're tolerant of a certain amount of crime, and that's just the way it is.
Just stay out of the South Side.
It's unreal to me.
At least data through the first half of the year shows violent crime fell 29% compared to the first 6 months of 2024.
Which category of crime is street takeover? Because I don't know what they're counting as violent crime, but when you are torching cars, crashing them into buildings, and looting stores, sure seems kind of violent to me.
But I don't think any of those ever show up because no one ever gets arrested. The cops don't do anything that would result in any kind of statistics. You need an arrest, you need a conviction, you need someone to go to jail, you need something you can count, you need something you can track. If they just have a street takeover and the only thing that happens is everyone calls 911 and there are insurance claims that are made when a store gets looted, there are no arrests that are made, there are no convictions. So does that even show up in the books?
Still, neighbors criticized police response and vow to take matters into their own hands after last night's sideshows in Oakland and Richmond produced little in the way of law enforcement response. Don Lynn's got that story.
Donuts, M80 explosions, even a car fire.
Now, he said that there were donuts, correct?
Yes.
Were there any donut holes?
Well, let me check real quick here, but here is what happened in Oakland and Richmond over the weekend.
Donuts.
Okay, you got glare on and you still have donut hole.
I thought there might have been a donut hole, too.
Donuts. M80 explosions. Even
That's practically a bomb.
Yeah, those are military-grade munitions.
M80 explosions. Even a car fire. Sideshows have
All nonviolent.
Of course. Very peaceful.
Sideshows have become a regular problem in the Bay Area, but that doesn't make it any easier for the people who live through it.
If I had a gun, I would have started shooting.
There's the guy from Gran Torino.
If I had a gun, I would have started shooting.
Well, when you constantly are faced with lawlessness and an inept law enforcement department that's understaffed and not allowed to do their jobs, eventually the vigilantes will come in.
This is the kind of fire that they're playing with, and the city doesn't care.
Really?
Would have been dangerous.
Where were the police? Where were the police?
Glenn Collins was livid after
The police said they're outnumbered, which apparently the policy is if they're outnumbered, there's nothing they can do.
Well, they're going to be outnumbered every single time.
Glenn Collins was livid after the loud spinouts woke him up 3 a.m, and even more frustrated by what he calls a slow police response.
Irresponsible youth, lack of police enforcement. If there's no police, nothing's happening. These people are having fun.
Glenn and his neighbors say a huge crowd took over the 41st and Howell intersection for about 40 minutes. They say this Infiniti, likely stolen, finally broke down from all the spinning. Then a mob jumped on it and set it on fire.
So I guess the game plan is you do enough donuts to where the car is inoperable, and then it's time for a stomping and a blazing.
And you know, that's awful for the environment. First of all, you could have an explosion when it hits the gas tank. But second of all of the pipes and the hoses and the batteries and everything that's in that car, when you melt it down, that goes into the gutter, which goes into the ocean.
Neighbors say police didn't move in until after the car was torched to break up the crowd of rowdy drivers and spectators.
So finally the police go in once the car is set on fire, but the rest of this nonsense, we're just going to watch and see what happens.
Well, they allow that to happen even when there's looting.
Because they could get something else on fire, you know what I mean? Like these old buildings around here, that's kind of scary. That seems like extra. I don't think they need to be doing all that.
It does seem extra.
At least she understands that it's wrong, but that's about the weakest you can do.
Fire, you know what I mean? Like these old buildings around here, that's kind of scary. That seems like extra. I don't think they need to be doing all that.
These kids that are lighting cars on fire that could torch buildings in Oakland, yeah, that's a little extra.
And that's the type of person who votes in Oakland, and that's why you have people like Barbara Lee.
Quite frankly. One neighbor tried to put out the flames with a fire extinguisher, but was told to back off for his own safety.
So the person that they crack down on is not the people doing the takeover, not the people stealing the cars, not the people lighting the fire, but they crack down on the person who's trying to put the fire out.
I wonder why so many officers are actively fleeing this department, either retiring early or transferring to safer places like Walnut Creek.
Who would want to spend their time putting up with this?
Police say this was one of at least 4 sideshow locations in...
I got an idea. Why don't we just get all the police out of Oakland? We will shut down the Bay Bridge, and that will just be Criminalopolis. They can do whatever they want.
If that happens, do the Raiders move back?
Yes.
Police say this was one of at least 4 sideshow locations in Richmond and Oakland on Sunday morning.
The wheels screeching.
This all happened while Barbara Lee was in Minneapolis telling people, come to Oakland. It's so great.
Oh, yeah. She got a good night's sleep at her hotel.
And people yelling and screaming, and it's just it's insane. Just complete insanity.
Some neighbors say as long as no one gets hurt, they're cool with it. Live and let live.
Oh, yeah. I wonder how we got here.
Okay, think about this. So they're not obeying any of the traffic rules. The cars are all stolen. They're blocking traffic. They're taking over the intersection. They're doing dangerous things that frequently results in people getting hit with cars going at high speeds, and they're injured or even worse. They're lighting cars on fire, and usually there's some looting going on. But let's live and let live.
We've been kind of waiting for it. I don't mind.
It was fun to watch.
Fun to watch. No problems with it.
It was fun to watch.
That person's vote counts as much as yours does.
And that's why Oakland has the problems they have.
It's loud. It was 1 hour. It's a Saturday night. It's not that big of a deal in Oakland.
They are the majority, I believe.
I think we've gotten to the point where criminal behavior is not just tolerated in a place like Oakland or a place like South LA. It's accepted. This is part of our lives.
Well, the kids that are doing this are probably from the neighborhood, which means some of these people being interviewed are probably the parent.
It's loud. It was 1 hour. It's a Saturday night. It's not that big of a deal in Oakland.
But some previous sideshows have ended in gunfire and even homicides. We're not aware of any injuries from Sunday morning. Still, people want to know why police didn't break it up sooner. The Oakland Police Officers Association says they simply don't have enough officers to move in safely. The union says,
we're outnumbered, we're outgunned, and we're outmanned.
Well, and the political will of the city is we do not want you arresting any of these people. We do not want you impounding the cars. We do not want you doing anything that's going to result in jail time or criminal records.
The union says there were 16 police cars at the scene, but about 500 participants and spectators. They released a statement saying, police are doing everything in our power to help residents. We ask...
I got it. You get a police sniper on a rooftop, and you shoot out the tires of every single car that's sitting there watching this thing.
Well, here's the other part of this. It's not like a big surprise. They do it in these same intersections all the time, and they advertise it on social media. So everyone in town knows what's coming.
We ask neighbors to demand city council and mayor hire more officers and retain the ones we have now.
Yeah, so right now it's 16 to 500. How many more officers do you need before you will actually do something about this?
I would imagine that if your 16 officers just started arresting people and a certain number of them went to jail and got criminal records, that word would get out that they're starting to crack down on this, and maybe you weren't arrested that time, but you might get arrested the next time. Maybe that would put a dent in it. But they're not even allowed to do that.
And if we're that short on officers, where's Alameda County Sheriff? Where's neighboring police agencies? Where's mutual aid? Where's, I don't know, the CHP that's still patrolling the Hagenberger?
Well, and this is where, when they say we don't need help from the National Guard, we don't need help from the state, we don't need help from any other agency or level of government, they're lying. Because when you have a crime like this that takes place, and the answer is no arrests were made because we don't have the personnel to do that, well, then clearly you need help. They hate Trump so much, they're unwilling to take his help to get these lawless cities under control.
Hagenberger. Poor excuse. Poor excuse. Get in there and do something.
OPD doesn't really respond to things, and they like to get a lot of overtime pay, so they usually draw things out and don't react to things.
I actually think she's very accurate with that at this point.
Oh, I'm sure. If you're the cops and you know the city doesn't want you to make any arrests, then what you do is you make sure to show up after it's over and you just do a report.
Some neighbors posted a petition at the intersection urging the city to put in a traffic circle.
These are things that cost less than thousands of dollars and are effective at completely preventing sideshows from happening.
And creating all kinds of gridlock all day long.
Yeah, you don't need to create a traffic circle. You need to arrest these people. Dump that.
You got so close there.
I didn't.
Oh, this topic's got you fired up.
I'll tell you. You just turn these cities over to these people. And no one cares. The people who live there don't care, except for the Gran Torino guy. The politicians don't care. The cops don't care. No one cares.
Glenn says he doesn't see a solution other than moving out.
Yep. Get out to Emeryville. Hercules.
I think the solution is to move out of the neighborhood.
Danville.
This is going to happen. This is unresponsive Oakland police.
Dublin, California. You don't see this, and it's pretty close to San Francisco still.
No, you don't.
We're not aware of any arrests in the Oakland and Richmond sideshows. Now, in the past, when officers had enough video evidence, they would later track down the cars and tow them, but we're not sure if that's going to happen this time.
Hasn't happened ever.
Nope, and certainly won't happen as long as Barbara Lee is mayor.
Well, I think she's only mayor for another 6 months. Is anyone going to run against her this time?
It's hard to beat an incumbent.
Quite frankly.
Karen Bass looks like a lock at this point.
Well, here we are, less than a year from that primary. Nobody has announced they're running against her. Nobody.
What do you think Rick Caruso is doing? Do you think he's going to run for governor?
I think he thinks that's an easier putt than L.A. I think he sees L.A. as a lost cause.
Well, I don't think it's going to be any easier to become governor for him. He might as well run for mayor. He seems to really care about L.A. issues. If that's what you care about, that's where you should run. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You could download all the episodes. You could download this hour and find out that word that Johnny got really close to saying.
Yeah, you don't need to create a traffic circle. You need to arrest these but
You didn't say it.
I didn't say it. I came close, but I didn't. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Kenneth writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Hey, Johnny, if you've ever seen the first 10 minutes of the original RoboCop, you'd probably say to yourself, that looks a lot like Oakland. They were woefully outnumbered. Crime was out of control, so they created RoboCop. Maybe it's time for Oakland to call in Murphy.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Well, RoboCop or a superhero, we know that they've called on Superman to help.
Superman, I know Metropolis has its problems, but you got to get down to Oakland.
Who else are we going to call Superman?
Let's go to Tony in Daly City. Tony, hello.
Hey, John. Great show you have here. My son was a manager over at Hagenberger, the In-N-Out, the only In-N-Out that they own that was closed down because of how the area was. And he told me some stories that it was crazy. They had armed guards at nighttime. Even the armed guards were afraid to show up to work at night after 10 o'clock.
Oh, God.
And it was just crazy. And that's the only In-N-Out that they closed down. That business is closed down. And then another quick story. I have my own business. I deliver custom cabinets, and one of my clients was up on San Leandro in 98, right up the block from them. He was at a red light making a left turn, and when it turned green, he didn't turn fast enough. He heard gunshots. So he thought they were shooting in the air to scare him. When he got back to his shop, he looked around, and the back of right next to his window, behind his head, was 2 bullet holes. They were shooting because he didn't see quick enough at a green light. And she's saying Oakland is a great place to come to. Unbelievable.
Now, when you talk to your son about life at the In-N-Out Burger on Hagenberger, would he tell you that people would get carjacked in the drive-through lane?
No, just their cars would all be smashed into. If you went inside, you would never want to go inside because you would come out, your windows are broken, your stuff. Even if you didn't have none, they would just break your windows.
And it was very common.
It was like a nightly thing. But he told me a couple of great stories about a couple of the hood rats coming in for job interviews. And I can't say the words because I told your producer I wouldn't swear. But they would come in and ask, "Who's your head so-and-so here?" with the N-word.
Oh, my.
So they would. One of his associates would, "Hold on, let me get him." So he'd call my son out. He'd come out and the guy would ask him that question. He goes, "I am," and he goes, "Go fill this out." They would get it out, and it was like they weren't even writing in English. It was like but he goes, "Dad, this was." He goes, "I wasn't mad." He goes, "I thought it was." My son's got a great sense of humor like me. He goes, "I thought I was cracking up." I took it back in the office. I started laughing. I mean, these people are so stupid out here. And he just figured they were just going in for a job, for an application to satisfy their parole officer. They were looking for work for the week.
Unreal. Thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it.
All right.
Please call us anytime, Tony.
Let's go to Bill in Irvine. Bill, hello.
Hey, guys. My take on this is kind of pretty simple. You mentioned it earlier. You look at Oakland. Oakland doesn't care. The city officials don't care. The mayor doesn't care. Law enforcement doesn't really care because they arrest anybody. They're coming right back out on the streets. But isn't it interesting that you go into a red city or a red county, or even some of the blue cities that care? Go north of the Bay. Go up into Marin County, Sonoma County. This doesn't happen there. Go east. Just go east 20 miles out into Dublin, Livermore, Tracy. It doesn't happen there. So I think what Trump should do, he should say, you know what? I'm going to go into Washington, D.C., and I'm going to make that a beautiful city, and I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to have crime rate down to practically zero, and use that as a shining example to these moronic cities like Baltimore and Oakland and Los Angeles and Chicago, and say, look, you people can do the same. I don't think Trump should go into these cities. Let them clean up their own mess. Let these big blue cities rot. And then the voters may wake up someday and go, we want to be like Washington, D.C. We want to be like some of these other communities, because it's all in the hands of the voters. And these people in Oakland, like your last caller just said, they're moronic. They don't care. They're stupid. And they really, why should Trump go into Oakland and spend all these resources when the people there don't care? Let these blue cities rot. And then let them look at some shining examples of other cities. These street takeovers is a joke. That should never happen. People can die just walking down the sidewalk. It's ridiculous. That's my take.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And Washington, D.C. is the perfect city that he can use as an example, because it is a district that he has jurisdiction over. And if he wants to make Washington, D.C. a safe place, he has the power to do that. And all of these cities have the power to do it. They just choose not to. And the fact that
Washington is a big city.
Well, and the fact that so many of these mayors and councils and voters in these cities say, well, we don't want Trump's help because our city is safe enough. Well, okay, because the murder rate isn't at the absolute historic high in the history of your city doesn't mean it's safe. The fact that you just stop making arrests on any number of categories of crime doesn't mean that your city is safe. I don't understand why the people who live there want to live like that. I don't understand why the elected officials who are presiding over these cities are proud of this as their legacy. These cities are basket cases, and they didn't used to be that way. Los Angeles, not long ago, was a safe place. It really was. I lived there. I had no problem taking walks at night. I had no problem parking my car on a city street. I had no problem leaving my car at my office for days on end when I would go to the airport and go on a trip somewhere. Now, half of these places, the insurance policy won't even cover it if it's not in a garage with a locking gate because it's so wild.
Even in the 1980s, when Oakland was still a pretty violent place, guess what? There was consequences. They locked people up in the 80s. They just don't care anymore. They don't care anymore. They don't want to arrest anybody because we know the demographic. We know the education level. They don't want to arrest people of any background. They're afraid. The jails, well, maybe the jails need to be filled. If they're committing crime, maybe that's where they need to be. But let the blue cities face the consequences, and then they can look across the bay to other cities and go, maybe we want to be like these other cities, clean up ourselves.
Well, and here's the thing. If these people who are doing the street takeovers are the people that the Democrats claim to care about, and they think that by locking them up or giving them a record, they're doing harm to them, you're not doing them any favors by allowing this to go on. Because if you don't correct bad behavior, what happens? The bad behavior gets worse, and eventually they will do something that you can't look the other way on. And when that happens, their life is over. When you correct bad behavior for someone, particularly people who are young, you're helping them out. You're teaching them that that's not the right way to do it and that there is a better way to do it, and they should take that path. And if you fail to do that, then what you're going to get is a lot more bad behavior, and you're going to end up with someone who's an adult who's so screwed up you can't fix them.
It's real simple. Look across the bay. Look at San Rafael, not a small city. How come they're not killing people and doing street takeovers and crime out of control? Because the people in that city care. The voters care, and that's a blue city. They care. Nobody cares in Oakland. So I say let it rot. Let it rot.
All right. Thanks for the call, sir. Let's go to Chris in Santa Monica. Chris, hello.
Hey, John. Just a quick question. Born and raised here, I currently live in Santa Monica. I live in Los Angeles all my life. And what I've noticed pretty much since COVID, I want to say the last couple of 3 years, there have been, no kidding, these roving gangs of motorcyclists, anywhere from 50 to 100 or more. And a lot of them are on those, those hybrid things. They can go up in the mountains, they can go on the streets, whatever. They will literally shut down a street like Wilshire Boulevard down here towards the ocean, and nothing will do anything about it. And you can look behind you. I mean, you can be at a red light. These guys roll up on you and just start doing circles in the intersection. I mean, there are a lot of them. The cops are right behind me, and they won't do a thing. But you figure if these guys ever get organized and decide, you know what, screw it, we're going to take over this town, what are the cops going to be able to do?
Well, and that's a huge part of it. They know the cops have been told not to arrest them. And once you know the cops have been told not to arrest you, oh boy, do you take liberties.
It's awful. I mean, down here, so Santa Monica has its own police force, which I've dealt with quite a bit. And I will tell you what, every time I call them and they roll down and I say, this is what's going on. There's a guy over there putting a needle in his arm in the playground, or there's a guy over there playing a lead pipe. They will literally ask, what would you like us to do? And I will say, well, can you make them go away? Can you get rid of them? Can you take them and book them? And they say, no. And then they literally say, Ab said, that's what you get when you vote Democratic.
Well, they're not wrong.
No, they're not. And it's just, I was actually pulled over in one of those, I guess, whatever you want to call it, cavalcades, motorcycle trains, whatever. And a cop rolled up next to me on a motorcycle, right? He'd been behind them. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he looked right down between my seats, and there was a cold beer sitting there, and he smiled at me, and I smiled at him, and he goes, you're going to be here for a while. If you got him, drink him.
Yeah. What a world.
So that's where we are. Anyways, love your show. Thank you very much. Let's pray for L.A.
All right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Harry in Oakland. Harry, hello.
Harry hung up. Hopefully he didn't get carjacked.
Well, he's not at that In-N-Out Burger. That I can tell you.
It's a lot of crime now.
And right now it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, this time it involves a Lamborghini.
Someone got their Lambo stolen. Years later, They used AI to figure out where it ended up. For more, you're a CBS 8 in San Diego.
It's a story of a man versus thief with an AI assist. A Southern California man whose Lamborghini was stolen in 2023 tracked down his car more than 1,000 miles away, and he had a secret weapon, artificial intelligence.
See, it's not just for slop of stupid Photoshop.
And songs that people send us all the time involving characters from the show.
CBS 8's Richard Allen has more on how the owner was able to get his Lambo back.
Well, that's right. This Lamborghini Huracan Evo was one of nearly 24 luxury vehicles allegedly stolen 2 years ago as part of a multi-million-dollar car theft scheme up in Riverside County. And while the rest of the cars were
What are any Lambos doing in Riverside to begin with?
Well, and if the car was there and it was taken by someone who doesn't own the car, it's not an alleged theft, it's a theft.
And while the rest of the cars were eventually recovered, this one remained missing until its intrepid owner took matters into his own hands.
I cried. I cried.
Orange County resident Andrew Garcia was one of a number of victims in summer 2023 whose high-end vehicles were rented out and then never returned. Instead, their names were scrubbed from the vehicle's titles and then the cars were allegedly sold off.
Wait a second. So he rented out the car and that's how it got stolen?
Yeah, I think besides Hertz and Avis and Dollar, they have other companies that will rent you high-end cars if you want to pretend to be a baller but don't have the money to actually buy the car. I would imagine that in those businesses, they deal with a lot of dirtbags who attempt to steal the car.
Instead, their names were scrubbed from the vehicle's titles and then the cars were allegedly sold off.
It was a blow to a lot of people. Very, very frustrating.
Over time, though, those other people got their stolen cars back, except for Andrew.
I felt perplexed because we hadn't gotten ours back, and I was just like, okay, well, where's it at? And what are they doing with it?
And then last month, almost 2 years after it was originally taken, Andrew received a mysterious message through Instagram.
It says, did you sell this car?
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep well that night, I can tell you that much.
I'm like, oh, that's random.
It turns out Andrew had left his business card in the glove compartment of the Lamborghini, including his contact information. The person contacting him was hoping to secure more vehicles and assumed Andrew could supply them. He even sent Andrew photos of the stolen Lambo, including this one.
Kind of what gave us the lead to everything from there.
Andrew took that photo and applied AI to try to track down his beloved car.
It's like in all those CSI shows. Zoom and enhance.
I'll tell you, we're now living in a science fiction movie.
I told ChatGPT, I said, don't focus on the Lamborghini, focus on the vehicle in the background that's blurred. And sure enough, once I gave it that command, it gave me a return and it was 100% accurate.
And while it took some more dogged sleuthing from that point, Andrew was eventually able to pinpoint precisely where his car was.
Thanks to AI, the photo that this guy sent him, because I guess he wanted him to sell him more stolen cars, he was able to figure out exactly where the car was.
I'm telling you, AI is going to fundamentally change the world we live in.
Can we get our police agencies to adopt it?
No.
It was in Denver, Colorado.
Andrew then tipped off authorities in Colorado and headed out there to recover his Lamborghini.
This proactive intelligence gathering is a really great benefit to helping recover stolen vehicles.
Kel Gould is spokesperson for the Colorado Auto Theft Prevention Authority, whose Metropolitan Auto Theft Task Force was able to then recover Andrew's car and return it to him. Gould says the investigation into who had Andrew's car...
How about that? You call the police with a tip and they go forward with it. Except the police were in Denver.
Yeah, if that was here, they'd tell you to fill out a form online and they'd get around to it when they had time.
Gould says the investigation into who had Andrew's car in Colorado is still ongoing. As for the auto theft ring based in Riverside County, San Diegan Dean Waters is now awaiting his preliminary hearing on October 15th, while his alleged accomplice, Kendall Clark, is scheduled to be sentenced October 21st on numerous theft and embezzlement charges.
It was surreal, using technology that we have now that anybody can use to locate the car.
Richard Allen, CBS 8.
See, it's not all doom and gloom stories about our AI overlords taking away all of our fun in the future. They can also help us solve crimes.
In theory, AI should make it very difficult to be a criminal, in theory, assuming that police departments and individuals, not just the government, but individuals use it to protect themselves. If you do that, it's an extra added layer of security. It's not a foolproof situation, but it's like having a light or a camera or a gun or a dog, whatever. It's another tool that you can use to help yourself not become a victim. Or if you are a victim, maybe help you retrieve your stuff.